I'm Elsie. Sitting on the back porch, the soft glow of a single candle casts a warm light around me. The scent of the candle reminds me of my grandmother, the only one in my family who ever had faith in me. As I gaze at the torn check in the envelope on the kitchen counter, I'm transported back to a series of events that changed my life forever. Weeks ago, the doorbell rang, and outside stood a florist holding 24 pale gardenias, my mother's favorite. There was no note, just the word home on the ribbon. I closed the door, my heart heavy with a mix of emotions. That night, as I sat beside my son Leo while he slept, I couldn't help but think about how far we'd come. It all started with Leo's birthday. I'd spent weeks planning the perfect celebration. There were colorful balloons, handmade decorations, and even a rented bouncy castle shaped like a unicorn. Leo waited at the gate, clutching the invite he'd made for his grandparents. But they never showed up. When I called to ask where they were, my father, Henry, snapped, "Don't count on your family. You're an outsider. We've given enough." That was the moment something inside me broke. I didn't scream or cry. Instead, I opened my laptop and canceled every account they had access to: utilities, rent, food delivery, and their cable subscription. For 8 long years, I'd sent them $2,500 a month, no questions asked, and never a word of thanks. After canceling the accounts, I picked up the untouched cake, and Leo and I went for a walk. As we watched the ducks glide across the pond, Leo tugged at my hand and said, "Can we do this again next year, just us?" I nodded, holding back my tears. In that moment, it felt like we were safe and free. But when we got home, there were missed calls from my father's work phone and an email demanding immediate reinstatement of the payments or they'd involve lawyers. I laughed at the threat. I had all the receipts, and everything was in my name. Still, a part of me hoped they'd apologize. Then my sister, Lily, posted on Facebook, "It's sad when someone thinks they can manipulate their way into love. You should never expect gratitude for doing what family should do." Her post was liked and accompanied by laughing emojis from my parents. These were the same parents who'd made me sleep in my car for 4 months when I was 20. I'd forgiven them time and time again, but this was the last straw. That night, I sent a message to my parents, my sister, and everyone who'd told me to let it go. I said the bank transfers were a mistake, and I'd corrected it. Then I blocked everyone except my lawyer. The silence that followed was anything but peaceful. It was like an empty theater after the curtain falls, and the lights never come back on. One day, when I went to pick up Leo from daycare, his teacher pulled me aside. "There was a man here claiming to be your father. He tried to take Leo home." My heart skipped a beat. "We told him to leave. He got angry and said he'd go to the police, claiming you're mentally unstable and endangering your child." "We filed a report," she said. I went home shaking, locked the door, and called my lawyer. As we were talking, I got a Venmo request from my mother, Sarah, for $2,500, with the caption, "You're being emotional. Be practical. Restart payments." I forwarded it to my lawyer and then posted on Facebook, "To anyone who thinks silence equals guilt, I paid my parents' bills for 8 years. They refused to come to my child's birthday and then tried to take my son. Now they're calling me unstable. I'm done." Comments flooded in. Some were in shock, some admitted they'd seen it coming, and some family members begged me to take the post down. But a DM from my older cousin, Ava, caught my attention. "I've been through this, too. If you want the truth about your parents, I have it, and it's worse than you think." I asked her what she meant, and she told me that when she was 23, she'd given them access to her savings. Later, she found out my father had refinanced her car in his name. When she confronted them, they told the whole family she was emotionally unstable. Ava sent me a folder with screenshots, bank statements, and voice memos. It was clear that my parents had groomed us to give and then painted us as unstable when we stopped. It was a long con, emotional fraud masked as love. Sure enough, One evening, a white sedan pulled into my driveway. A man in a cheap suit handed me an envelope. It was a notice of intent to pursue support under elder dependency, filed by my parents. They were suing me for stopping the payments. I decided to fight back. I invited the press to the courtroom. When their lawyer read the claim that my parents had been financially dependent on my monthly support of $2,500 for 8 years and that my refusal had caused them severe distress, I didn't flinch. I stood up and told the judge, "Your Honor, I have 8 years of bank statements. The transfers were never court-ordered, never requested in writing, and never labeled as support. They were gifts until I discovered the emotional abuse." I handed over the file with evidence of financial manipulation, including texts where my parents threatened to cut me off if I stopped paying and an audio of my father saying, "You owe us everything. You shouldn't have been born." My mother's voice cracked when she said, "You said you'd always take care of us," and it became evidence against them. Outside the courtroom, the press swarmed. A reporter asked, "Is it true your parents spent your son's birthday money on a luxury vacation?" I just looked into the camera and walked away. Back home, I found a letter under the door saying, "You've humiliated us. You'll regret this." But I was done with their shame. I filed for a legal restraining order and made a final post. My silence funded their comfort, but my voice is mine now. The court order was granted, and the following weeks were peaceful. But my parents didn't stop. A week later, my boss called me into his office. He said someone had been emailing HR, claiming I was mentally unstable, financially reckless, and had forged my resume. I showed him my folder with letters of recommendation and a voice recording of my mother saying, "If she doesn't pay us back, we'll destroy her job." My boss assured me I was safe at work. 2 days later, my aunt called, crying. She said my parents had told everyone at church that I'd run off with someone else's baby and abandoned them in old age. I asked her if they'd mentioned the 8 years of rent I'd paid. She whispered, "I didn't know." Relatives started calling me, confused by the lies my parents had spread. I just forwarded them the receipts and evidence. One cousin messaged, "I believed them. I'm sorry. I don't even know who they are anymore." I replied, "They're exactly who they've always been. You just didn't see it until now." The final blow came when my mother posted a long, dramatic paragraph on Facebook, full of tears, manipulation, and fake illness. She tagged the whole family and Leo's school. I reported the post and sent a screenshot to my lawyer. We filed an emergency defamation motion. Then, at 2:17 a.m. My father sent a message on a private number, "She's unraveling. You win. Just please don't let her name die in shame." I stared at the message for a long time and then turned off my phone. I didn't reply. My lawyer handled the court hearing, and the ruling was in my favor: a restraining order, a permanent injunction, and monetary damages for the smear campaign. But the true ending was in the silence. As I sit here now, watching the candle flicker, I know I've finally walked away from the toxic family that held me back. They loved control, not me. And I've chosen peace over proving anything. The sound of their names is slowly fading into silence, and I'm free at last.